On February 27, ladies and gentlemen, 2026, current President Donald Trump made an eye-opening suggestion, a friendly takeover of Cuba. This comment or statement has actually sparked intense reactions across the globe, raising questions about U.S. intentions and, of course, what this could actually mean for the future of Cuba, Venezuela, and, of course, even Iran, ladies and gentlemen. But the question is very simple. What is actually behind this particular bold statement, and why now?
The Cuban government is talking with us. They're in a big deal of trouble, as you know. They have no money, they have no anything right now, but they're talking with us, and maybe we'll have a friendly takeover.
Trump's remarks or statement on Cuba have actually raised eyebrows. He claimed that Cuba is actually in a serious need of their help, pointing to severe shortages of money, oil, and of course, food. Cuba wants our help, Trump said, suggesting that the Cuban government, ladies and gentlemen, is on the brink of collapse and, of course, seeking assistance from the U.S. or United States of America. According to Donald Trump, ladies and gentlemen, high-level discussions are actually underway with Secretary of State Marco Rubio, a Cuban-American politician with a long-standing hardline stance against Cuba's communist regime or government, leading the talks. But Trump's focus on Cuba is actually just part of a larger picture of escalating tensions in the region, ladies and gentlemen. These tensions are not new. Just a few weeks ago, the U.S. conducted a military operation aimed at Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro, that is the former president of Venezuela, a key ally of Cuba. The operation was actually part of the ongoing effort to weaken Maduro's grip on power, further complicating the U.S. relationship with Cuba. Adding to this, ladies and gentlemen, the U.S. imposed a fuel blockade on Venezuela, cutting off critical oil supplies to Cuba. The blockade has had a massive impact of Cuba's economy, which relies heavily on Venezuelan oil. Donald Trump has also threatened tariffs on countries or states that continue to supply oil to Cuba. These actions, ladies and gentlemen, have actually triggered strong condemnation from the United Nations, which has actually warned that these measures could actually lead to a humanitarian collapse of the island. Ladies and gentlemen, as the U.S. tightens its grip on Cuba and, of course, Venezuela, the political and economic pressure is actually becoming unbearable. Cuba's president, ladies and gentlemen, Miguel Diaz-Canel, has actually condemned these actions, calling them imperialist aggression. In a statement, ladies and gentlemen, President Diaz-Canel vowed to defend Cuba's sovereignty, even suggesting that the U.S. was actually attempting to destabilize the country or state, possibly through infiltration efforts from Florida. But Trump's approach to Cuba, ladies and gentlemen, isn't just about current tensions. He has long been critical of Cuba's communist regime or government, and of course sees it as a key battleground in the larger struggle for influence in the Western Hemisphere. His rhetoric, about a friendly takeover aligns with a broader strategy to assert U.S. power and, of course, influence in Latin America. Ladies and gentlemen, also Donald Trump's vision on Iran and, of course, Venezuela. Donald Trump's actions are not just limited to Cuba. He's actually also taking a hardline approach towards Iran. During his recent address yesterday, Trump claimed that his administration had actually knocked out Iran's nuclear capabilities, pointing to U.S.-led operations that reportedly crippled the country's nuclear program. He says, and I quote, "I would rather solve it the peaceful way." Quotation close.
We have a big decision to make. You know that. Not easy. Not easy. We have a very big decision to make. We have a country that's been, for 47 years, blowing people's legs off, arms off, the face. They've been knocking out ships, killing people, lots of people, not only Americans, lots of people. It's been terrible. 32,000 people killed over the last 2-3 months, protesters. 32,000. That's some number of people. 32,000. They want to make a deal, but got to make a deal that's meaningful. I spoke with Ted Cruz, John, all of them. On the way here, I said, well, you got to make a deal that's meaningful. We hit them real hard, as you know, with those beautiful B-2 bombers recently, knocked out their nuclear capability. After Midnight Hammer, they were warned to make no future attempts to rebuild their weapons program, in particular nuclear weapons. Yet they continue. They're starting it all over. We wiped it out, and they want to start all over again. And are at this moment, again, pursuing their sinister ambitions. We are in negotiations with them. They want to make a deal, but we haven't heard those secret words. We will never have a nuclear weapon. My preference My preference is to solve this problem through diplomacy. But one thing is certain, I will never allow the world's #1 sponsor of terror, which they are by far, to have a nuclear weapon. Can't let that happen.
He made it clear that Iran's refusal to cooperate had pushed the US into taking a more aggressive stance. But Trump's foreign policy doesn't actually stop there. The US has also been refining Venezuelan oil, ladies and gentlemen, right there in America. Now he says in a quote, "We are going to keep some for ourselves. We are going to give some to them. And that is the way it is supposed to be." Quotation close.
We're going to refine their oil right here in America and right here in Texas, and then export it to all over the world. We're going to keep some for ourselves. We're going to give some to them, and they're going to make more money than they've ever made before. We'll help build their country again, which was a disaster. And we're going to build it up, and we're going to benefit also. And that's the way it's supposed to be, right? It's going to be great.
The US has now become a major player in global oil market, with Donald Trump positioning the country or state to benefit from Venezuelan resources. With these significant moves in Cuba, Venezuela, and of course Iran, Trump's vision for US foreign policy is actually becoming into sharper focus. He's actually pushing a bold agenda that seeks to reshape the geopolitical landscape, ladies and gentlemen, prioritizing US interests above all else. But the question is very simple. Will his strategy lead to stability, or will it cause more harm than good? Now, if you're actually finding this particular story very important, please make sure that you're going to like this particular video, subscribe to our channel, and of course turn on notifications. Internationally, responses to Donald Trump's Cuba proposal have actually been mixed. Several Latin American countries or states have actually condemned the idea, calling it an imperialist move that actually could lead to more conflict in the region. Ladies and gentlemen, some see Trump's aggressive stance as an attempt to reassert US dominance in the Western hemisphere, potentially threatening the sovereignty of neighboring states or countries in Cuba. Ladies and gentlemen, President Diaz-Canel's condemnation has actually been unwavering. He has actually promised to defend the country's sovereignty at all costs, even in the face of mounting pressure from the US. This political struggle seems to be escalating, with both sides digging in their heels. But what about the future of US relations with Venezuela and of course Iran? That is the question.